YouTube live. Hello. I apologize. This was supposed to happen an hour ago, but I had something pop up with one of my other clients. So I had to take care of that. And that's pretty much the nature of doing online coaching. But I'm here. It's good to see everybody. And today's topic is about why attachment styles are so much of a game changer when it comes to dating and relationships. And this is because I'll wait for people to get in here. But before I get started, and for everybody else, waiting for everybody else to get back in here, because I apologize, once again for the tardy start. But join my membership if you guys are interested. It's only $1.99 a month. And it's something that's affordable to you as far as joining my Facebook group, my private Facebook group, and as well as my weekly coaching and monthly coaching program. So, hope you guys are having a good week thus far. It's Wednesday here in the States. It is 1:00 p.m. And if you're in here, give me a thumbs up. Let me know you're here and that you can hear me clearly, because sometimes I'm a little bit self-conscious about whether or not you guys can hear me clear enough. Hi. It's 2 seconds here. Let's get down to it. So I learned about attachment styles back when I was in coaching school. I learned about a bunch of different theories, a bunch of different things people teach about relationships, whether it be women are from Mars, men are from Venus, men are from men are from Mars, women are from Venus, attachment styles, Mark Knapp's theory for relationship development, how attraction works for men versus women. So it's a bunch of different avenues that I learned, but attachment styles was one that I really dove deep into, and the light bulb went off as far as my own personal life, but as well as other people's relationships that I've observed up until that point. And I'm thinking, wow, this is an absolute game changer. Why wasn't this taught in school, or why isn't this something that's more talked about? Because you get a lot of coaches and you get a lot of people who are online influencers, and none of them really touch on unhealthy attachments. None of them touch on how childhood trauma affects your relationships in the future. And I know part of the reason why is because, when you touch on this topic, it's really uncomfortable for you to do it if you're not a clinician or a therapist. But if you're doing it as far as the education realm, and you're not diagnosing, and you're not claiming to be a therapist, then I don't see why it's not something that you can just talk about. If you're sitting here in the living room and we're talking about this stuff, it's crazy. Can DAs also be narcissists? I think narcissists that could be a cross diagnosis. Like, you could be a narcissist and be an anxious attacher, or dismissive, or a fearful. I don't think that really classifies the same way. Like, you can be a cross diagnosed person, I guess. And you can have all the attributes as a narcissist, because there are narcissists that pretend to be anxious attachers, or they pretend to be I'm not even going to go into that, because that's a whole different realm. All right. But narcissists, yes, they can be somebody who are dismissive avoidance. Well, and it's all stemming from the childhood trauma that you've experienced. Because it should be common knowledge that people who are narcissists, they're pretty much raised by either narcissistic parents, or they've learned those unhealthy attachment, or not attachment, but relational skills from the way that they were raised. So when I first dove deep into the attachment styles, I was like, wow, some of the things that I were doing as an anxious attacher made so much more sense. And then I had to do the work on myself. I had to really think about uh, how my attachment style was formed. I had to reflect on some of the experiences in my childhood that made me the way that I am. I can remember the very day. This was probably uh, I don't care. I'll give my age. I'm 38. This was probably 10, 15, 10, 11 years ago. I was visiting my mom. I was driving in the car with her, and 26, 27. And I was asking her um, about my childhood. And one thing that I asked her was, there was this reoccurring vision or dream about my dad leaving to go to the military. And I asked her, I said, what age was I when my dad left, when he went to the military? And I gave in-depth detail about how the whole thing went down. I was at the airport. I watched him get on the airplane. I watched him back away from the terminal. And I'm there. I had this little pillow pet, right? I had this little blue pillow pet with a little red hat. And I was just, crying into that pillow. And I can remember my mom consoling me. And I asked her, what age was I? And she said, son, I don't know how you remember that, but that's exactly how it went down. It went down. You had your pillow pet, your dad left, and she said, you were 3 years old. And I'm thinking, wow, I'm 26. How many people don't remember what happened last week in their life? This was a memory that had got burned and etched into my subconscious mind. And I will never forget. And I almost single-handedly uh, can attribute my unhealthy attachment style to that day that my dad left. And this wasn't anything that he did maliciously. This was something that he wanted to do in order to ensure a better future for not only myself, but for him too. But I can remember that I really became a mama's boy from that day on. And that's how I learned how to attach to women in my life. Yeah. So yes, pillow pet Trump. Yeah. So I did this, Coop. I did the reparenting this yourself meditation a couple times, and this is something that I found on YouTube where I laid down and I got in a comfy spot. I put my headphones in and I listened to a guy walk me through it, or it's actually a woman. She walked me through it, and I basically had to talk to that inner child and let that child know that this wasn't my fault, that my dad went to the military. It was no one's fault, really. And that my dad didn't leave because of me. And I'm telling you, um, that exercise was so transformational, and it really helped me out to the core. Um, so whenever I'm feeling a little bit shaky or out of balance, I try to go back to that exercise and basically reparent myself and let myself know that, hey, I'm enough. I am all I need. I don't need a person to make me feel whole or to make me feel comfortable or to make me feel loved, because I am loved by myself. I can provide that for myself. Landon H. Cooper is an anxious attachment, and I was dealing with someone who thought I was a DA. But the more I read about people who have dealt with narcissists, that's the experiences I had. And I can tell you that surviving narcissistic abuse in particular is something that really takes a lot of commitment, dedication, and time. because when you're dealing with somebody who is narcissistic, they thrive on tearing you down in order to keep you where they want you. I was explaining this to somebody last night that I coach. The elephant analogy, I don't know if you guys ever heard that. I'm pretty sure Tony Robbins talked about it before too, is one of their tactics. And honestly, there are other agencies that use these tactics to tear you down, to get you broken mentally so they can rebuild you back up to what they want you to be. And if you think about an elephant, if you go to the circus and you see the elephant staked to this little stake in the ground, even though they're this massive creature, that all started when they were very young. When you take an elephant at a very young age and you stake them to the ground, if they can't pull it out at a young age, they'll go out through their whole life thinking that they'll never be able to pull that out. And a lot of people do that in their relationships. They get into relationships with people who stake them at a very young age, or it could even been your parents that have staked you and gave you these limiting beliefs where you feel like you can never do anything more. And the only way that an elephant will pull that stake out of the ground is if it's startled or if something crazy happens and they end up, going nuts. But narcissists they use that as their tool. They use that as something that they utilize in order to keep you down. They'll love bomb you at first, and then they'll devalue you. If you think about the elephant, like, you're too small, you're too weak, you've always been weak. Nobody in the past loved you. I'm the best boyfriend, the best girlfriend you've ever had. Like, nobody's going to want to be with you. Nobody's going to want to be with somebody who has kids. They'll do that to make you feel like you're not valuable, to make you stay in their life, to keep you shackled to them. And it's just a tactic. And we believe it for whatever reason. I forgot where I heard this from, but they said when somebody says something, it's about getting upset and to feel like it's true. When somebody says something to you and you get upset about it, the only reason that you would get upset about it is because some part of you feel like that's true. For example, I have a bald head. All right. I lost my hair at a young age. Well, what some people technically consider young. If somebody was to come up to me and say, honestly, this is what they used to do. Kids I used to mentor, they used to make fun of me about my hair, my hairline. They used to call me LeBron James and all of that other stuff. And I wouldn't get upset, because I embraced it. But for people who would get upset about that, that's because there's some insecurity that believes that what that person is saying about them is true. There is this story. I'm not even going to use that one. It was about a horse. I don't think that correlates, but it's so interesting. People who really get the most upset, and if you're talking about narcissists, I see somebody said covert narcissists. The people with the most insecurities are the people who come off as grandiose. They come off as needing the validation, the attention from other people, because then they're usually the ones who are the most narcissistic, if that makes sense. The most narcissistic people are the ones that are the most flashy, that are trying to compensate for some part of themselves, for something that they feel like they lack. Which is why when you do have, if you've ever been in a relationship with this person that's a narcissist, they have a lot of wounds and they have a lot of trauma that they don't show other people. But if you catch them in doing one of their vulnerable states, they will show you who they are, and they'll tell you who they are. And sometimes they do it to kind of make you feel guilty and to kind of sell you this story, this sad story about themselves, in order to get you to be on their team and never want to leave them. I've seen this happen a lot, where they'll sell a person their sob story or something that they went through in life in order to use that later on when a person decides they want to leave them or they feel like they can't handle it anymore. They'll say, this, what I've been through, I've did this, so and so left me, or so and so cheated on me, or my dad died when I was young. Some kind of story that'll hook you and to keep you around. But we're not even here to talk about narcissism. I see so many narcissistic comments in here. So I need to get back to the topic, which is, why is attachment styles so important? It's important because it basically lays out the foundation for your relationship. And this is why this is important for you to go find the test wherever you want to look for the test at. Go take the test. I actually have one in my I think it might be Psychology Today. So go in my comment section on any of my videos, and I have the test linked to there. And once you take that test, it'll tell you how you operate generally how you operate. And once you figure that out, it kind of lets you know where you stand as far as what you have to bring to a relationship and where you need to work on, what you need to heal. My dad wasn't affectionate but loving. All right, sorry, getting to the comments. My apologies. Hey, if you want to do super chats, I'll be able to see it so much quicker. My dad wasn't affectionate or loving, but he was a good provider. But I always end up finding men I need to help. I try to change them by showing them the loving person I am. So Nicole, and that's honestly, that's pretty much the MO of somebody who's love avoidant. Because love avoidants have the tendency to work a lot, not be very affectionate. Like they're kind of the old school style guys, the guys that know that they have to provide, they have to go out and earn money to keep the roof over their head, but that's all you're getting. Like, you're not really getting the affection, the daddy-daughter dates, the that type of dad, like the balance, because that's what it's all about. That's when you have a secure person. If you are a secure person, they know how to balance out. They know how to spend the time with you, the quality time with you, but also communicate with you. It's all about being that well-rounded person. And honestly, with so much stuff that goes on in the world, and how so many people have experienced trauma, or extreme traumas, complex traumas, it's really hard to find those people that are well-rounded these days. So, Narcissist has many female friends on Facebook and Instagram. That should have been my first red flag. Yeah. They need them supplies. Narcissists need a lot of supplies in their life. People to tell them that they're attractive or that they're intelligent and all those other things. Like that's something that they really need, because if they don't have it, they don't really have a sense of identity. It's definitely, he has a lot of trauma. He told me things. Green and gold, same here. All right, so you guys have any questions? I'll open it up to you. It's been about 17 minutes. Have any questions for me? I hope you guys enjoyed my trip down memory lane about how I was crafted, I guess. But it's so cool because when you start to heal this stuff and you start to see some of the changes in your life and some of the things that you've told yourself that was absolute false, absolute fallacy, there's a lot of limiting things we put on, limiting beliefs that we put on, like what you can do in life, the amount of money you can make in life, even where you come from, like where you live and where you grew up. That can even put a restraint on you, or like some type of shackle on what you think is possible. Because I can remember in high school, I used to think about the things I wanted to do. Honestly, I was lost in high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't decide to go to college until I was a senior. And then I decided to play football. That was my very first year playing football. And up until then, I didn't know what I wanted to do. How do you learn to not take it personal? One of my favorite books is Don Miguel Ruiz, The Four Agreements. And those agreements are: don't take anything personal, always do your best, be impeccable with your word, and don't make any assumptions. So I read that book over and over and over and over and over and over. And I tried to make that part of the way that I operate. Because when you realize that anything that somebody does, says, or does to you isn't about you, it's all about how they're feeling. It's all about what's going on inside of them. The more you're conscious of that, the more you think about, um, put it on yourself. How do I feel about a certain situation? And then how do I lash out to people when I'm feeling a certain way? When you learn more about yourself, this is what I like about the spiritual journey I'm going on by meditating and studying all these people who are um, meditators and healers. When you realize that the more you learn about yourself, the more you learn about the other people, because other people in your life, because we're all connected, you'll start treating people in the same manner that you would want to be treated. And when other people start to treat you in a certain way, you don't take it personally anymore, because you realize that it has everything to do with them. It's all about what's going on in their life, in their journey. And I usually just ask, okay, so that's one thing that I learned was when I was working with youth, at risk, because I believe that at risk youth become at risk adults. They just age out of the system. The things that was going on inside of them, they would lash out onto other people. This was when they turned into bullies or get into drugs or any alcohol, whatever they got into. It was something that was going on inside of them, some type of inner turmoil. And they just reflected that onto the other people in the world. And when you learn that, you just start to let things roll off your back. Like, don't take it personal. So if somebody wanted to leave you and you've done everything possible to make that person stay, you were very accommodating, you communicated, you went above and beyond, and they still decide to leave you, like, you have to know that that's nothing to do with you. It's all them. Like, if they want to get up and leave, that's fine. But you have to be able to maintain your self-dignity and your sense of self-worth when they do decide to leave. Know that it had nothing to do with you. Now, you can reflect if you were somebody who were jealous, needy, went through their cell phones, toxic. And that's another thing. You have to be able to realize when you're the toxic one in a relationship. If you are the one who is a poor communicator or somebody who is just very not fun to be around, then, reflect on that. Do some self-discovery. And I think that's really important throughout the relationships. When you're going through your single ship mode, do some self-reflection. So the way you not take it personal, read that book, Don Miguel Ruiz. That's one of the 4 agreements. Thank you for sharing it. It's nice to hear someone else's experience. Thanks, Paris. It's good to see you. What helped you the most to find balance? I came across a book called James Allen, or As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. There's another book that I read a whole lot, and it made me realize that where I was at in my life, it was completely because of me. I got myself there. My thoughts, my anxiety got me in that position. And it made me step back, and I had to think, wow, this was all me. There is no circumstances that caused this to happen. Because what people do, how is it that somebody's able to take a breakup and walk away and move on compared to somebody else who lose it, who becomes unhealthy mentally? We don't have any. We're not born with different things. We're all born with the same type of mental faculty. So how in the world is it that I can bring myself to a healthier state? I had to realize that. So I read James Allen as a Man Thinketh. I read that over and over and over again. And then I read Dr. Wayne Dyer, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, over and over and over again. over again. And I'm still listening to it. I'm still trying to become more balanced. I'm still trying to become better than I was yesterday. Those helped me a lot. Studying, um, solitude, and when you're going through something, you take in a lot of external influence, a lot like external uh, advice, and people sway your decision making. And that's what I like about this job. Many times people already have the right decision inside of them. They just let everybody else convince them that they're wrong. They let everybody else talk them out of what they know in their truths and in their heart, what's the right decision to make. They just either seek out the information that's going to help further their unhealthy thinking, or they seek out the information that's going to validate them. But at the same time, they have to know that we're all connected and we all have that higher source that's telling us the accurate thoughts, the things that are actually our truth. There's this, I forgot what it was that I found this, but you have an emotion right there in your stomach, right below your sternum, like this. You get this little ball, this little knot right there when you're feeling like something's off. Let's say something feels strange about your relationship, or you're in the wrong neighborhood, or somebody is sending you email and saying, hey, I'm your long lost so-and-so from Africa. And you start to get this you type in your information. You're like, oh, no, that doesn't seem right. You get this feeling. There's this emotion that sits right there in your gut, and you break out in a cold sweat. That's your truth. That's your gut instinct. Literally, that's your gut instinct that's telling you something's off, something's wrong. But then you go find information that contradicts that, and to tell you, oh, well, maybe this is the issue, or maybe that. But you don't follow your truth, which is your gut. And that gut instinct, I forgot where I read it, but they said it's even more accurate than your brain or your heart. Your heart and your brain can always lead you in the wrong direction. But when that gut instinct kicks in, it's usually true. Go with it. What helped you the most? My partner is severe, DA. What can I do to better grow our relationship safely? If he's severe, then you got to give it time. Communicate in a safe way. Use a lot of I feels. I feel like this is going on. Don't say you never do this, you never do that. Say I feel like. We don't communicate. Use a lot of we talk. We need to do this. We need to do that. If you guys are in a committed relationship, if he has committed to the relationship, either you're married or you've been together for a while, just know what you know. Know that this person is not able to show up. Let go of your expectations of what a healthy relationship looks like, what a thriving relationship looks like. Let go of those expectations and take it for what it is and build from there, if that makes sense. Create that safe space for them to communicate properly, but also lead with your no-goes. If when you guys first start talking, or when you guys first start getting dating, you teach people how to treat you. So the very first time that you let that communication that should have been completed, like that disagreement, let that go, that's going to set the standard for how the relationship goes. So if you say right out the gate, I'm not going to. It's not okay for me to just have this conversation swept under the rug. It's not okay for you to get loud with me or to get aggressive with me. And if you're in this, don't feel too bad, and don't feel like it's too late, because it's not too late. You can always learn new things. Let's just hope that it's not too far. lay out your boundaries in order to make the relationship thrive and level up. I call them level up moments because when you're in a relationship with somebody that's a love avoidant, you have very little level up moments. And what those up moments look like are the moments where you talk about the childhood, you talk about the things that you fear, you talk about your future, like you'll level up. But if you have a bunch of just surface level conversations, you're talking about how Conor McGregor lost or your favorite type of coffee you like, then those aren't really level up moments in relationships. I'm all over the place, but I'm trying to reel it in. The gut does not lie. No, it does not. Contradicting info opposed to gut. You hit it dead on. This is what brought me to the place I am now. Absolutely. Go with your gut. All right. I'm going to go with my gut, and it's telling me it is time for me to get off of here. It's good to see so many people on midday. Happy hump day. I love all of y'all. I really, really do appreciate you. Big time. Until next time, namaste, and you guys have a good week.